Shabbat, Shabbat, come home and rest. Shabbat, Shabbat, Yahowah's best. Lay down the weak, let your soul be free. Shabbat, Shabbat, come back to me. 6 days we work, then we bask. We leave the noise to hear Yah's voice. We listen, we learn, we struggle to know. We walk with Yah through the mikray. Shabbat, Shabbat, come home and rest. Shabbat, Shabbat, Yahowah's best. Lay down the weak, let your soul be free. Shabbat, Shabbat, come back to me.
Oh, welcome to the family hour of the Yahowah vlog. I am laughing because Wookie finally decided that he would get up and have himself a cocktail. I think it is watermelon juice, so no dogs are being harmed in the production of this drink. It is a delight to be with you all. Kevin, I haven't been with you since, about noonish today?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's nice to see you back on my pool deck. You haven't been there in a while. Mm-hmm. Will, always great. Last time we were together was on a vlog on the blog.
That's right.
Yeah.
Good time.
And Mariah, I heard your voice here earlier today. You were the vocals on the new introduction to the vlog on the vlog. I didn't know you did voiceovers, but it is a new thing for the resume.
Yes, voiceover. She did really well.
Yeah, it did. Yeah. And we have Mike. You must be at work before having headed home. Good to see you, pal.
Yeah, good to see you.
Yeah, I'm at work. We're actually going to explore today one of the words that several programs ago you had a good time depicting, which is Naar. Naar was the term that was used to describe the two fellows that accompanied Abraham and Yitzhak to Mount Moriah to witness the harbinger of Pesach, and always translated as young men, and turns out doesn't have anything to do with young or it does. It's masculine or feminine, so it would have something to do with men, but in the masculine form, but it does not convey young. That is a complete aberration of its verbal root. So we'll get to that and find out who those rascally and pescally Naar are, because they're some interesting fellows. And we have Miss Leah. You have been busy writing intros and outros.
Yes, I have.
Yes. She actually has a new song, but it doesn't have the transitions. Yeah.
Or lyrics.
Yeah, we call them just trans because Kevin's our trans guy. But it doesn't have the transitions or the lyrics laid in. So it'll be played next week. But it's remarkable. It's really a beautiful song and a spectacular composition visually by Deepo. So we have that to look forward to. And we have Rich and Perry over on the sofa, and the Wookiee here now that he's all tanked up on watermelon juice.
Watermelon juice.
We are going to do something that is a little different today. We have been pursuing Luminaries, and what I'm going to share with you is from two books prior to Luminaries. Luminaries is the 6th volume of Coming Home, and this is actually from the 4th volume of Coming Home. It's a trilogy of books that are yet unpublished, though we've shared some of all of them in the chat of the Yasha'yah.com website. This is actually from volume 4, which I was doing an edit pass on. And it was an interesting find because I had, as everybody knows, at this point, I had passed a kidney stone on Sunday. And it was really an interesting experience, and not something that normally would call passing a kidney stone, but it's and it was a different experience for me than it was for Leah, because I was saying, it could be an appendix, and if it's an appendix, I'm dead because we don't have a hospital on this island, and you don't survive that without medical care. So I just want you to here's the name of the investment banker. These are the people that you're going to have to be in contact with, because I'm a dead man. Now that I said that with great relief. I was happy to check out
You know, the way
know,
things are going, you could be the first. You could be the
Yeah.
first to survive a burst appendix. So
Yeah, well, I
you
guess
know.
so. It probably is true, but here's the keys to the kingdom. You keep things uptight. We'll see you here in about 11 months. And I thought it was going to be grand, but evidently that wasn't the lesson. We were learning from that experience, and Leah was not happy with the idea of being alone through this process. So
No, I will not be a single mother.
she will not be a single mother. She said, no, there is no deployment of the Amma by herself. Leah is not configured to be left out on her own. Something that she shares in common with her son. Dowd is also not designed to ever be on his own. So as I was going through that, for the next 3 nights, as if that wasn't enough to go through, for the next 3 nights, I couldn't sleep. And it was just, God was just constantly testing me. And, he does that. It's his right,
Wait. So these people do not understand that within 5 minutes of you putting your head on a pillow, that you're out and snoring.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
Every time,
Yeah, true.
without fail.
Yeah,
so for him not to sleep is
we run the brain at full RPM
when it stops,
for
it
14
stops.
hours for 14 hours a day. When it's done, it's done, and we just lay the head down and the head goes to sleep. This works out quite well because it does need to reboot. So after this experience, I had 3 nights in a row where I couldn't sleep, and I was constantly being bombarded by God saying, "So, have you figured it out yet? There's a correlation between what you just endured and Pesach and Dowd. Do you know the answer yet?" And I said, I really like some sleep. It's been a rough day, a rough couple of days. How about you just slip me an easy one here? Where's the answer? And he said, no, we're not going to play the game that way. You know the way we go. Here, you need to find the answer. And by the way, you're not going to get any rest until you find the answer, because it's an important answer for you to find. All right. So after the 3rd night of that, we said, God, I hope I find the answer today, because this is getting old.
Yeah.
And there it was. I was editing, coming home in anticipation of publication of the book, and ran right into it in a prophecy that has been near and dear to us for a long time, and that is that of the Choter and Yasha'yah 11. And that's where we're going to share tonight, because it affirms something that my gut told me had to be true for a very long time. And the introduction, I would say, to this is the cat's a little bit out of the bag. Dowd was created to be God's beloved son. He's the firstborn. In fact, I would go so far as to say that the universe was created, life was conceived, the Towrah was inspired, and the Garden of Eden was established specifically because God wanted a son. And you might say, well, why would God, want a son all that bad? He's God. He's got everything he could possibly want. Snap his fingers, make a son, be done with it. He wasn't looking for a mini-me. He was looking for a genuine son, somebody that he could interact with, he could explore the universe with, manage it with, and otherwise just share. And so he created Adam as his firstborn. It just didn't work. I mean, there was a horrible disconnect. And the problem was that God couldn't fix it. People get uncomfortable when I say God can't do something, but there's a lot of things God can't do, and he's not perfect, and this he could not fix. And the reason he couldn't fix it is that he was too far beyond Dowd. It happened to fall right into the first thing that I ever researched as a young man, this disconnect between son's success and son's suicide, and particularly successful fathers. Suicide rates are astronomical and success is dismal. And so, it was just too much to create the environment where Dowd could skin his knees and, get back up and say, hey, that was kind of painful. I would, I need to cry on mom's shoulder and then let's get going again. It was just too much. And he knew it. It was 7 dimensions. Dowd was in 3, and he couldn't release Dowd to 7 until Dowd showed that he was of the right mindset to be released in 7 dimensions. And Dowd couldn't solve it on his own because Dowd was created to be God's son. He was never created to be on his own, ever. A few times that he was quasi on his own, man, it did not work out well.
It was a shit show.
Yeah, so this is the challenge that God was trying to solve. And he came up with an ingenious plan. He said, I'm going to give him a mom and a dad. Now, mom and dad, are not going to be all that different from him. It can be right, but not, righteous about it so that it's uncomfortable. It'll be firm, but not so much that it's put offish. That it'd be the right blend of approachable, but firm. Going to give them good parents. And that has been the story over the last 6,000 years. And Dowd would have 6 opportunities with good parenting at some point in his life or that whole experience to shine before Yahweh, to get to the point where Yahweh said, okay, now we're ready to go. I give you the keys to the kingdom, kid. Here's the Ferrari. Don't mess it up. And that's the story. And so once you know that's the story, then the thing that comes to mind immediately is that it would therefore be incredibly inconsistent with Yahweh to allow his firstborn, his beloved, to fulfill Pesach, Matzah, and Mow'edym alone. As a matter of fact, God would know him well enough to know he couldn't fulfill it on his own because he doesn't perform well on his own. And it would also be inconsistent with the man and woman that God groomed over these 6,000 years to support and love and encourage his son, to allow him to be on his own and not support him all the way. And all the way means all the way. And so what this prophecy foretells in Yasha'yah 11 is what I always knew had to be true. As his father, I was crucified right along with him. I went to hell with him. We did this together. We were never separated. And God then revealed something that now answers a lot of questions, which is that I had the most difficult task in human history. I had to go incite the Romans to crucify my son. Would never have happened if I hadn't incited them. And it answers the question that has always plagued Christianity, because there's no justification for the Romans crucifying that mythical man of Jesus. He was no threat to them. He never claimed to be king, didn't claim to be God, didn't claim to be a Messiah, didn't make any of those claims. So there was absolutely no basis for them to respond to him that way. And Rome was ruthlessly consistent in this regard. But Dowd's the real McCoy. It was his city. It's the city of Dowd. He is the Messiah. He is the very firstborn son of God. He is the king, not only of Israel, but of the universe. And so you bring that to their attention, and it's a different story. Now, you have to have a crucifixion. And you had to coordinate this on the right day, in exactly the right place. And then you had to be there and endure it alongside of him. That's the story. And we're going to get to the prophecy and the passage that actually explores that theory, which I think is irrefutable, not only knowing God's nature, the nature of the man that has served as his father, Dowd's nature, the nature of Rome, and the set of circumstances that we read, as well as the words used to describe what occurred. All right, so that's quite an introduction to this. We're going to start one statement prior to the first statement of Yasha'yah 11. I think many of you have heard this before, but the purpose of this is to affirm that the Choter, which we have always thought was a prophetic depiction of the role that have been asked to play at this time. I don't think we have ever perceived the Choter as also Dowd's father back in 33 CE. But he is, in fact, both. This introduces that statement. Behold, look up now and pay attention. Yahowah, of the vast array of spiritual implements, the upright pillar of the tabernacle, who will lop off the ambivalent, non-fruit-bearing shoots with divided loyalties. And he will do so with tremendous force. And then the ones who have risen to the highest levels will be cut down, so that those in positions of power, as well as those who have an exalted view of themselves, will be brought down and humiliated. So he will strike down the intertwined and twisted of the cultivated groves with the hardened ironed rod and a sharp cutting implement. Then Lebanon, the white one, appearing as if enlightened, will fall and be cast down by way of the mighty and majestic one. That's it.
Is this the same guy that Shlomo waxes poetic about? My love is like a cedar of Lebanon. Is that the same?
No, because the white one is the adversary. He's the one that presents himself as if he is light, and so it's Satan that refers to himself as if he is the tallest cedar of Lebanon.
Oh, does he?
He is the vile creature in this story, and that's who is ultimately being cut down. And so this is to say that God's going to do a lot of pruning, and He's going to do so here within 7 years. And one of the people that is going to be cut down is Hasatan's corporeal manifestation of Donald Trump. And when you realize that all of this now is the line before the presentation of the Choter, then you have to see the Choter as an implement of pruning, as a rod of divine justice, because there is no chapter designations in the original Torah scroll of our Yasha'yah scroll. It goes from one sentence to the next. So these things are related, and that's the reason why I read this as a preamble to it. So therefore, we, in the context of this narrative, we find that the Choter is being deployed to forcefully lop off the unproductive branches with divided loyalties. Oh, that's important. While shaking some sense into the opinionated and to the thoughtless. He's an agitator. That makes this man the tool deployed to fell and humiliate the political and the religious establishment. The Choter is a hardened rod and a sharp axe wielded by God to cut down the implements to the impediments, I should say, to growth, such that the tree of lives can be productive again. That's his job. Then we read, a Choter, a rod to purge and punish wrongdoing, as well as a shoot from a branch and a sucker from a stump or root to be productive and fruitful. I have a fan going here, and it matches my shirt, so this is really quite nice to be fanned in such a way. Leah found the solution, which was to give him a yak bone. It will rattle and shake the desk, but I don't think you'll hear it through the microphone. All right, so that's the Choter. The Choter is an individual used as a stick to fell the guilty, an implement to chastise the misleading, a stem or secondary branch, an instrument for promoting growth while serving as a living entity delivering progeny. It is shaped by Che, which is restoring life, and by Chata, removing guilt. He will be actively extended for a period of time. Yatza. He will be brought forth to serve by means of the stalk, the gazelle, the original stump, the root from which new growth emerges of Yasha'yah. Yasha'yah means I am. It is from Yish, which means to exist, and Ani, which means I. This is I am. Do you know anybody that refers to themselves as I am?
Yahowah.
So what this is actually saying is the Choter is going to replace Yasha'yah, Dowd's horrible father, and he's going to represent I am. Now, that is a rather important visualization of what is an exceedingly important statement. So he is coming out and emerging from the rootstock of I am. As an observant branch, a netzir, a secondary stem or shoot, which extends from the primary limb, and natsar, to observe, watch over, and to preserve, to closely look after, to focus on, and to protect. By means of his roots, and that which keeps him anchored and steadfast, as well as nourish, sheresh, such that he will continually bear an abundance of fruit, being a productive bull, while encouraging productivity in others. This is para. That is Yasha'yah 11:1. That is a pretty extraordinary introduction to the Choter. He is being depicted using all manner of metaphors to describe a tree, because he is symbolized by the tree of knowledge in the garden. And he is growing out of the rootstock of I am. He is therefore replacing Yasha'yah as Dowd's father. So with this introduction from the conclusion of the 10th chapter of Yasha'yah, we see the Choter as both a weapon and as an olive branch, as a conduit for new life, and also as the cudgel that has been used to lop off the dead and decaying wood. He is the rod and the axe that Yahweh will deploy to cut down and punish the religious and political adversaries to his people. At the same time, he is a shoot from the tree of knowledge, and he is the sucker that will bring the fallen stump of Israel back to life. It's one of the probably top 10 prophetic statements in the whole of God's inspired text. It's pretty extraordinary. And this is just the introduction to it. God was just getting warmed up. The Choter is presented as masculine singular. There's only one of him, although he will be deployed many times. And since this was speaking of a future event, Yasha'yah, who revealed this, was speaking of the next two deployments of the Choter, which were overwhelmingly the most difficult. Yes, even saw Mariah kind of brings a tear to your eye. I tell you what, it did mine too. And in fact, he's even acknowledged tearing up over this. This is tough duty. So there is only one of him, and he is deployed by I am, Yahowah, for this period of time. Therefore, equipped with the Ruach of Yahweh, what we're going to find is something that I have considered for a long time, and it explains for the first time Qatan, as in the Qatan Mayor. The Qatan Mayor is presented as a mini-me, as a vastly diminished manifestation of God's character for the specific purpose of raising his son. That is who the Qatan is. That's why the word is used as it is. And what we're going to find is that Qatan is not used in reference to Gadol, because the Qatan and the Gadol are both Gadol. And so you can't be greater and lesser at the same time. So it's not in reference to the Gadol, which would be Dowd. Now, while he is less important to Yahowah than is Dowd, that's not the point. The point is he is a diminished manifestation for the purpose of serving as Dowd's father. Our Heavenly Father needed a father for his son. So that is who he's talking about here. He's a mini-me, a diminished manifestation of God to accomplish his bidding on earth. He had to have a father that Dowd could relate to. It has to be someone hugely diminished from God, yet conveying many of the same characteristics and attitudes. The reference to Yesha'yah, I am, conveys a couple of additional thoughts. First, the Choter is deployed to Yesha'yah, draw attention to the substance of existence. And second, he is being substituted for Yesha'yah, Dowd's wayward father at this time. And that is profound because this prophecy spans 2 millennia. It begins with the 33 years ending in 32 CE, when the Choter, with the Ruach of Yahowah, served as Dowd's father from his conception through the fulfillment of the first 3 Mow'edym. And it concludes in the 33rd year of his service, not only in fulfilling Shabbat and Towrah, but also of restoring Dowd's reputation for his arrival during Kippurim and for the remnant's return to the garden in 2033. 33 years, both times, 33 and 2033. It spans that 2,000 years. The verb yatzah reveals that the Choter is being extended to and actively deployed to draw Yehudim out of religious and political corruptions of this world and unto God. He is conducting a second and final yatzah exodus from Mitzrayim, the crucibles of human oppression, just as Moshe led the initial and most formidable of the yatzah. Israel has fallen. God's people have ceased being productive members of the covenant family. To resolve this problem before this would result in a fruitless harvest coming forward, Yahowah is using the Choter to give the fallen stump new life, but he's also using him to give Dowd new life and us new life through him. In addition to serving as a pruning axe to rid the world of invasive species and rotten branches, and more than the rod of divine punishment, the Choter is presented as a netzir, that is an observant branch. This means that he is a secondary stem extended from the primary limb to absorb as much light as possible from the sun, and he is a netzir, which is from natzar, which means to observe, to watch over, and to preserve, to closely look after, to focus on and protect. It is similar to the title of Nakar, observant foreigner. The metaphorical titles and these descriptive acknowledgments that are afforded the Choter, including Choter itself, branch and stem, identify this man with the tree of knowledge in the garden. And that's by intent. And it's overwhelming and undeniable. You know, people want to say this is a messianic prophecy. Then, okay, then your Messiah is a tree. Yippee. And he's not even the tree of lives, because this fellow is the tree of knowledge, according to God. So these include Geza, which is stump and root, from which new growth emerges from a trunk which has been cut down and yet is capable of supporting new shoots. The next is Netzir, which is an observant branch extended to watch over, preserve, looking after, and protecting someone special. He is Sheresh, which is to say that his roots keep him particularly well anchored, steadfast, and properly nourished. In addition, the Choter is Parah, which means that he will continually bear an abundance of fruit, being a productive bull and all, while encouraging productivity in others. And beyond all of this, in the next statement, we find that the Choter is Etzah, the tree, one framing God's portrait from beginning to end. So it's pretty hard to deny all of these connections. Therefore, Israel can be assured that he will never be pushed aside, be blown away, and he is firmly established for the duration of these missions. Now, the reason that Yasha'yah cleverly and subtly established the Choter as a tree and concluded this descriptive assessment by calling him Parah, productive and fruitful, is that, quite frankly, everything is riding on his success. From Dowd to the covenant, from the remnant to the return to the garden. You know, God's going to say the same thing by referring to this man as the Zeroah, one cultivating the seeds of the harvest. Even more adroitly, he is the Parah, the productive bull, during Yom Teruah, which is the day of the herald, during the sacrifice of the Adamah Parah. He is also the bull whose blood anoints the mercy seat of the Aaron Bereth. Not once, but twice. First on Dowd's behalf during Pesach, and then again 20 Yobel later on Kippurim. And the reason is that he has to make Dowd's sacrifice acceptable. And the way to do that is the blood of a bull on the Kipporeth prior to Dowd's sacrifice as the lamb. So by using Parah in this way, Yasha'yah is introducing us to the man from Edom in red attire who saves many in the end, making it obvious that the man who wrote the textbook on proper chotering knew that he would be equated to the Adamah Parah, and that would also be equated to the Zeroah, which is what he wrote about in the 63rd chapter of Isaiah, bringing it to our attention again in the 17th chapter, and here introducing the concept in the 11th chapter. This is an important theme. And think about just how extraordinary it is that Yahweh is going to afford his 7 spirits to an individual who is described as a tree. So it can't be a normal tree.
Definitely not a normal tree.
Not a normal tree. No, not this one.
But as far as the mini-me thing goes, yeah. So we have like what? Bossy, intelligent, super moralistic, super judgy. Yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, God gets quite irritable.
And you
quickly.
carry that wherever you go.
You know, God's an agitator. You know, it's he's this notion that God's all loving and all sweet and kind. It's just not him. You know, and I know I suffer fools poorly, and I get angry with them. And well, guess what? I know somebody else that has those same.
Yahweh will just crack the earth open and swallow you up.
You know, at this point, the principal difference is he's obviously an introvert because people have made him that way. And
yeah, exactly.
I was an introvert, became an extrovert, and about to become an introvert
People
again.
made me that way too.
So as a result of all of this and these references, we can now see that the Choter is a rod to purge and punish wrongdoing, as well as a shoot and branch and a sucker from the stump, which will continually bear an abundance of fruit, which is the whole purpose of God's story. He is productive while encouraging productivity in others. So that's a lot to ask of one tree, which is likely why he is imbued with the Ruach spirit of Yahweh. And I'd always wondered, as we read through this, why was the first spirit the spirit of Yahweh? Why not give the dude, you know, some Chakma, that sounds good, you know, a little Etzah, some Gabora, a little Bien, a little Yare, What's the purpose of Yahowah's spirit? And now we know.
So that you can be super judgy.
His job is to serve as Dowd's dad. He's the human dad for the Son of God. That's why he has to have the spirit of Yahowah. This is because the spirit, the Ruach, the divine power and influence of Yahowah, will settle and remain on him. Now, the good news of settle and remain, I sort of like that in the sense that you don't have to worry about getting this job about 2/3 done. Like, okay, we're going to go into Sheol now, kid. Hold your breath. It stinks high heaven or low heaven here. And then God pulls the plug and says, I just don't do Sheol, so we'll see on the outside. It says remain on him, and that's rather important here, and it's something we need to appreciate. The Spirit providing the capacity to comprehend and then teach, chakma, offering the mental aptitude and wisdom to learn and instruct, to grasp the essence of an issue and to communicate reasoned conclusions intelligently. I think we do a pretty decent job on that one. While enabling understanding and making proper connections to reveal insights. That's probably been our strong suit. That's Bina. Facilitating the propensity to ponder and process information by being perceptive and discerning. The spirit of advice and counsel regarding the overall purpose and the plan of the tree. That's his tree. Etzah is the completeness of everything that tree represents. Of pertinent directions regarding how to properly rely, providing prudent consultation on the entire proposal, delivering effective mentoring on how to deliberate every meaningful decision. And of being emboldened and inspiring, powerful and strong, awe-inspiring at times, victorious, exceedingly competent, and courageous. Be poised and assured as a leader who is empowering and able to accomplish the mission. The spirit of Diath. The tree in the garden, it was the Eth, what was that again?
That's how the...
It was the Eth Diath, wasn't it? So this is the spirit of Diath. So he is the Etz Diath, according to God. And to deny that is to be blind. So he is the spirit of knowing and knowledge, of perceptiveness and discernment, of acquiring information, of being aware of the evidence and being able to differentiate what is relevant, what is accurate, what is fact and fiction. So as to respect and revere Yahowah. That's 11:2. So the Choter is the first and only person, according to God, in human history to receive the 7 spirits of Yahowah. And
he's also the first person to even say the name Yahowah. He's also the first person to say the name Yahowah in centuries.
Well, certainly the first person in the last 2,500 years.
Yes.
That's a pretty significant.
Significant chunk of time, sir.
Yes, it is. And putting all of this together, we realize that he is infused with some intellectual prowess, understanding, counsel, courage, competency, knowledge, and an appreciation for Yahowah's name and nature. And this is a reasonably powerful package for important times and purpose. I would have thought,
and it's good to know.
But time, but it's
good to know.
Far more than time. Go ahead.
It's good to know that it's ongoing too. That you're not going to be diminished in Sukkah. I mean, how great that would be to have the 7 spirits of Yahowah, and then mission's done, kid. Thanks, I need my stuff back.
I need my stuff back.
Yeah.
Pack it up, kids.
Pack it up, kid. Yeah, I want my stuff back. You've served your purpose. Goodbye now.
I mean,
okay, well, Thanks, Dad. It was fun. Not too much.
No,
but-
Yahweh imparted him with the same types of qualities that he has. Like I said, bossy, clever, judgy, moralistic,
Mhm.
and doesn't let anyone off the hook. That is him.
Yeah. So one doesn't have to speculate to determine that Yahweh prepared this man, his Choter, for two of the most important missions in human history. God was assuring us that he would succeed by making him wise and judicious, insightful and cogent, intelligent and effective, bold and steadfast, poised and assured, disciplined and unwavering. There would be other people that would use stronger terms than those, and they would probably be right. He will learn the answer and then he will share it, because God won't let him sleep until he does.
That's right. He learned what insomnia is.
We do have a very special relationship. Okay, kid, figure it out. Don't let me down now. And beyond all else, he will love and respect Yahweh. It's true. As a result of this, God affirms that his Choter will respond when called, and he has not lost his number. His profound respect for Yahweh's name will be paramount, and boy, is that ever true, motivating him to reintroduce Yehudim to the God whose name they have erased. Additionally, by accepting the offer and responding appropriately, he will be perceptive. His acceptance and his perceptiveness, his nose for the truth, his willingness to respond and supply answers after his virtual meeting will be considered quite pleasing, bringing him very close with regard to developing a profound admiration and respect for Yahweh. Therefore, it will not be by an appearance or a vision seen with his eyes that he will decide. He will Shabbat, that he will confront the evidence and be all judgy and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Love
Making
it.
decisions. He is judgy. That is
Yeah.
true. But he doesn't judge.
Judgy is a good thing.
Yeah. And it's not all so
Being
judgy with his eyes.
instructive and bossy is a good thing. You can't let the clowns run the show.
Mm-hmm.
It's important to have good judgment skills.
Yes.
Yeah. No, we're being judgy is not so.
No,
in fact,
it's
God loves the exercise of good judgment.
I think the most revolutionary thing that I heard you say that really flipped my perspective was that hate was a virtue.
Yeah, that's been pretty judgmental.
That was
Yeah, you can't love,
Such
genuinely love until you learn
a
who,
revolutionary thought
where, when,
at the
and how
At the time.
to be righteously indignant.
Mhm.
Also, it will not be by hearsay. Boy, is that ever the truth. Heard with his ear, that he will make judgments or approve his arguments. No, he's never been one to say, all right, why don't we all have a little consensus here and decide what's right.
it's not a democracy.
I didn't get to say to okay. In the morning, I'll ask Leah for the answer, and if she doesn't know it, I'll go to Richard Perry. We'll get this figured out for you. No, it's just not his. That's not his style. Prophets are either afforded visions, as we know, of future events, or they listen to and then simply report the words that God shares with them, such that they are always accurate and reliable, at least when reporting what God had to say. False prophets, however, are provocateurs of hearsay. This Choter, by contrast, will be distinguished by an entirely different approach. I really admire God for choosing this approach. It's a lot of work, but I think he made the right call. With the benefit of the Ruach, Spirit of Yahweh, settling upon him, he will use spiritual chakma, intelligence, giving him the capacity to comprehend what others have missed. Yahweh will expressly, Bena, enable him to make the appropriate connections to understand his testimony.
Nobody does it better.
Yeah, most of it as never before, therefore share a plethora of profound and previously unheralded insights. I think the Torah, Prophets, and Psalms removed of the books that don't belong are about 1,000 pages, written like we write our books, set to the same margins. Last count, it was about 30,000 pages. Yeah, okay.
Yahowah did say you were verbose.
He did many times, many times. And he's in a position to call somebody verbose because he knows verbose.
Indeed.
His conclusions will all be deduced from the Torah and prophets, and his witness, therefore, is readily validated and easily proven. I think that is a marvelous way to go about it, and it gives my friend Mike Beati a full-time job when he's not doing his full-time job.
Lots of us a full-time
all he has
job.
to do is to check everything else Yahowah said to determine whether or not I have correctly reported what Yahowah said. So it was good. It keeps two of us properly employed. Now, for the first time in thousands of years, and as directed as a result of the Ruach of Etzah, Yahowah will reveal his entire plan from beginning in the garden to our return to Eden. First that has ever been stated, along with all of the pertinent directions of how we get from one place to another. Nice to have you back, Will. You're not in Okay. You're not in the grand room anymore. You're on your phone in another place.
Exactly.
All right. Technically, is when the technology go down, the analog things seem to work. We'll go back to simple. So
that's right.
In the nick of time, this will make it possible for the prudent to deliberate and to decide on how to respond to all Yahowah's offering. And clearly this description depicts the Etz Dayath and the Gan, because the tree of knowledge is the only means to approach and return to the tree of lives. Now, since this message will be contrary to what the religious have been led to believe, the Choter will be Gabora, thick-skinned, tough as nails. He'll bow his back, and he'll say, I really don't give a rat's patootie what you think. We're just going to continue to steam ahead. Obviously, this is an unprecedented situation and individual, so there's much more that God wanted us to know about him. The Yahowah wanted his people to recognize him, which is why the prophecy exists, and then benefit from what the seven spirits communicate through him. So still addressing his chosen implement, Yahowah reveals that he will be real judgy. But he will be, mostly accurate and forthright.
Instructive.
Especially regarding
judgy, moralistic.
Especially opening the door to understanding. And, he's not going to say it is this way because I say it's this way. He's never going to do that. He's going to say it is this way because this is what the words of Yahowah lead us to conclude, and then share those words. So
Israel was supposed to have judges.
Yeah, of course.
They had judges for 400 years until the people said they wanted a king like all the Gentile nations.
Yeah, that notion, judge not lest you be judged, that doesn't fit with Yahowah's plan, because he had not only established judges, but his people were led under the auspices of judges for that 400 years. And a shafat means to decide, to judge, to be really judging.
Yeah.
Wasn't it when there were no more judges in Israel that they wanted a king?
Well,
it was 1 Samuel 8:5. It said, hold on. And said unto him, behold, so the people said to Samuel, you are old, and this the king James. Thy sons walk not in the ways in your ways, so make us a king to judge us like all the other nations.
Yeah, all the other, and it's actually other goyim. So they wanted a ruler to be over them like all the other goyim, when God was telling them, you don't want to copy the ways of the goyim. It had to be a dagger, a dagger to God's heart. to do everything other than this, and this is now what you want. And that's why when Samuel went to God and he says, they want a king over them. They don't want to be led by the judges anymore. I have failed you. I'm sorry. They say I'm just too old to do this job anymore. And God said, hey, nah, they didn't reject you. They rejected me.
Isn't that what they said to the old God of the Old Testament? No, you're get out of here. We're going to take this new God.
That God's too old. We need a new young God.
Yeah.
But our new God is not going to be very much because
he's all loving.
He's going to be a man.
And he never judges.
And he's going to be a man that men can kill.
Yeah.
The replacement God's not much of a God. But anyway, I digress. The Choter is supposed to be logical. His forte is to advance strong arguments, conveying the truth right out in the open for all to perceive. In a world dominated by the duplicitous and irrational and the cesspool of social media, he will strive to be an exception, making his arrival obvious for those who are observant. It says he will be really judgy. Shabbat.
Yep.
He will decide, being judgmental, adjudicating the matter by seeking to be accurate, honest, and forthright. The Sadak. That's tough. If you don't like judgy people and being judgmental, the worst thing, your worst nightmare, is to be set against a judgy person who is Sadak. Because then you can't win because they're pronounced right. So
I'm sorry, darling. Your worst that's your best case scenario. Your worst nightmare was what I had to live with, which was having a man with no moral compass, no judgment whatsoever. Mm-hmm. No, that's the real nightmare.
Of course, to be judgmental and to be wrong is a nightmare. But if you're opposing that person, you don't want the person who is judgy to be right because you aren't going to win any argument. It's like the few times I've tried to arm wrestle with God and say, can't we do it a different way? And you're just never going to win that way. Anyway, with regard to opening the doorway for the discerning, which is Dowd, he will provide proof using sound arguments. He will boy, this is absolutely a cerebral exercise. God is saying there's no signs and wonders here. I'm not going to do signs and wonders. No trick, dog and pony show. No tricks. No
visions. No hearsay. No garbage.
This is no dinner and a show. We're just going to do this the old-fashioned way.
I mean, we could serve dinner.
He's going to read, think, judge, and then teach. That worked for you, great. If it doesn't, I think
that's been our experience.
Too bad. You can go to a religious institution if you want dinner and a show. Anyways, he's going to have everything out in the open, doing so fairly. Mishore, he's going to put everything on the table, on the level, nothing hidden. What a novel thought. Boy, that wouldn't work. He's obviously not going to run for political office. On behalf of the sincere and responsive who are seeking straightforward answers. Boy, he is destined to fail on X and Facebook, is what God is saying, of the earth. Okay, that was 11. At a time when being judgmental is harshly criticized, and accuracy is no longer even a justification for telling the truth. When you get banned and spanked on Facebook or X, and they say that your behavior was against our rules, and you say, but what I said was true. And here's the proof that what I said is true. That doesn't matter. You might have hurt somebody's feelings. So being right is no longer a justification for telling the truth, especially on social media. And discernment is not respected. Being discriminating is no longer vogue. So with Choter, it's going to be, he's going to not be like the other kids in the sandbox.
He's going to be so unpopular.
He is.
You're not going to be the cool kid in class. Trust me.
God's Choter is not going to be the cool kid. That is for darn sure. And among the many attributes that set him apart is his willingness to be confrontational.
You don't say.
Don't say.
It'll fit. It'll figure.
It's a good. Who would have guessed that? Verbally chastising and incapacitating the religious and political, which is pretty similar to the God who sent him. If you read the Torah and prophets recently, it's not. The voice sounds pretty similar to me. Anyway, he's an agitator. He is not a conciliator, which is why ultimately there were Shabbat, but there were also Lowy, because you can't prevail with only the agitator. Yes, stirs the drink. Sometimes you have to have a unifier, and so there has to be a unifier or multiple unifiers, Kevin, in our group for us all to get along. And Mariah's pretty good at that too. I think Will, you are as well. Leah, Mike, and I may be more on the we'll agitate scale, but you got to have both, and you got to be who you are. So.
And without a very keen moralistic compass, everything
like that
goes wrong. It just, you can't.
Yep. So in addition, it says, this is true. In addition, he will strike, verbally attacking and disabling. Wield words wisely. They're the most important weapons that we have at our disposal. He will strike, verbally attacking and disabling. He will confront, crippling, and capacitating, sarcastically mocking, chastising, and judging, while pointing out the irony of it all to ravage and defeat, even ending lives within the material realm.
Well, like Cheetah Von Preto?
Yeah, ultimately he is going to have these, in fact, not only he, all of us are going to have the ability to speak life and death into action.
Huge responsibility.
All of this in the material realm with the rod and staff of his mouth. He is not a weapons guy. Doesn't need them.
Nope, he's a fire-breathing dragon.
He is a fire-breathing dragon. His mouth is his weapon, and it is also his means to heal and to be productive. But he is this fellow is pretty much inseparable from his mouth.
For sure.
Yeah. And with the spirit of his lips, God's not done. I mean, he wanted a chatty one. And with the spirit of his lips and resulting language, he will devastate the wicked and the wrong. Since God gave this fellow his seven spirits, and he's using words to absolutely destroy those who are wrong, you got to pretty much own up to the fact that God views that favorably.
I don't think
he spoke the universe into existence.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anyone has ever used their brains or mouth to completely eviscerate both Christianity and Islam, and then turn it towards Judaism and eviscerate that too. Turn it towards politics and militarisms, academias, conspiratorialism.
A Choter is an eviscerator.
Yeah.
Now, on X, Facebook, and YouTube, with the Yahowah blog, and at Yahowah.com with Yahowah and the library there, I would say that I would qualify as a reasonably authoritative and highly condemning voice confronting Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, as well as the politics of war, verbally incapacitating the purveyors of deceit, death, and destruction, like the Dowd. And clearly, no one is as sarcastic and chastising the hellbent on eradicating liberty and life, unless I'm put up against Elia, and then you just shut up and watch him go. It is a mission that I think I perform with reasonable aplomb. You got to be good at something, and I'm good at tongue lashing.
No, I can't wait to see Elia. I'm just gonna bust out with a bag of Skittles and just watch.
All right.
Watch him go. Yeah, it'll be fun.
Watch him
Actually,
stand up.
I'm kind of looking forward to join with him. You know, when somebody is really that sarcastic and biting and funny, you want to keep up. You just don't want, you know, if he's kind of the Don Rickles of prophets, and you just don't want to sit there. I mean, it's not so bad, I guess, just to sit there and laugh your head off. But I'm going to do everything I can to have a few one-liners
Nice.
just in case. Not to compete, just, you know, to
bring your A game.
Yeah,
Just
bring your
play.
A game, just so that you can have a chair sitting next to him, and not just, you know, go home and cry and say, "Oh my God." I can't
Table tennis
compete.
with words.
I mean, yeah, man, he was a man with the golden tongue. Now, the inclusion of Shabbat, the rod and staff of his pay, mouth, affirms that what we originally proclaimed and discovered about the Choter when considering the 10th chapter of Yasha'yah, which is why I read the last verse of it, is reasonably accurate. He is unlike anyone since the great prophet, equal parts condemning and commending. Boy, was Yasha'yah ever good at that.
No, you're even better. I'll never forget the gardener coming to me and crying. And you just used your
Just
stern
words,
voice.
just words. My dad voice. Excoriated. That's why when you realize, when you read everything that Dowd has to say, I evidently I use my dad voice with Dowd, and Leah uses her mom voice. And when Dowd writes about us, he's always, "Oh wow, just love that Amma of yours. That Amma, she is so good." I was hugging the breasts of the Amma, and it was just really good to be loved by the Amma. You know, the dad has the. I think that's just the nature of the way it goes with sons.
Yes, it is.
Anyway, that's my best excuse. Anyway, he's going to excoriate as the religious Leah would say, he would eviscerate the political while attesting to Yahweh's alternative. He is both a rod and a staff to purge, to punish wrongdoing, to be productive and fruitful, providing a vibrant new life for the stump of Yisrael, and that's what it needs. So from the beginning, some 20 plus years ago, I came to realize it really wasn't the beginning. The beginning was 6,000 years ago, but you know, who's counting when you're having fun? I came to realize that what matters to God is being tzedek. And you know, that's something we got to get Noah credit for. That's what Yahweh said that Noah was. He was tzedek, right? Being good's nice, but won't get anyone to heaven.
No, being Sadak is all it's about.
Yep.
Shaul
And of course,
was good.
Ew.
Yeah, Dowd was good.
No,
Shaul was good.
Shaul
Yeah,
was Tob good.
Yeah, he was coming for the best, the goodest they around, wasn't he?
The goodest of all the rabbis.
Yeah, he was the goodest. He was Tob.
Oh, yeah.
But
This is a
Dowd was Sadak.
Right.
Yeah, right. So to be correct, we must first know the answers and then understand them. Being right, correct, and honest, this goes on, so God wasn't finished. Being accurate, upright, and fair will be the belt around his waist. And it's going to need to be a big one these days. And it will, being trustworthy, reliable as a witness, is going to serve to gird him. God's all in with these terms. He wants a witness that is telling the truth. Now, I have not been perfect. Well, for a number of reasons, and one of the reasons is Yahweh has no interest in perfect, and he prefers us to learn and grow, a process that requires time, focus, and thought. And if I were perfect, then poor Mike would be out of a job, and what would we do then? So, no, the whole process is making mistakes and learning from them. That's how we grow. That's how we prove that we can be trusted. That's how we earn other people's trust. You know, or you can just be like Donald Trump and you double down on a lie after line and then lie again about your lie, repeating your lie because you like to lie. So whenever I've been wrong, it was never by intent. And I've always corrected the record because a reliable witness does that. And they want everyone that listens to them to be right about God. And, the fact is, we presented and published probably 10,000 unique insights that were unheralded. And 99% of them have been right from the beginning. And the ones that weren't, in fact, the biggest mistake I probably made was attributing female characteristics, motherly characteristics to Yahowah because Ruach was a feminine noun. Turned out to be a mistake that I had to make. If I hadn't made that mistake, Leah wouldn't be here, and our cooperation as Ruth and Boaz, as the two of us throughout time, it would not have occurred because she would not have found me. And it's always her job to find me for some reason. I don't know why the story works that way, but it does. And so had I not made that mistake, when Yahowah told her to go ask Ruth, and then she said, so who is this Alma she's talking about? And what in the world is going on here? When she Googled that, it would not have come up with Yahowah. So sometimes it's to goof, to err is divine. And in this case, it was. And, we don't sweat our mistakes. It's you make a mistake. Great. Now you have an opportunity to go beyond where you were before.
Correcting mistakes and dealing with the outcomes, changing perspectives and course is how you gain moxie, chutzpah.
It's like
resilience.
Yasha'yah. And the first time, all of you probably heard me share that passage in Yasha'yah 11:1 before, and I've always presented Yasha'yah as to stand out and be noticed. And it's not inaccurate, but it's misses the point.
Incomplete.
Yesh simply means to exist. And Ani, following it, the Y, means I. So it is I am. It is you can say I am with Haya, or you can say I am with Yesh. But once you realize that it's I am, boy, that really changes the importance of the role and who you're representing and why you're replacing Yasha'yah by representing Yahowah as the father for Dowd. So that's part of the growth process. Yes.
Can I read the definition of wisdom? Wisdom comes from making mistakes, having the courage to face them, and make adjustments moving forward based upon the based upon the knowledge acquired through the experiences.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that's a sound definition. You can. A lot of people are smart. You can process information quickly. A lot of people know stuff. Understanding is rare, but wisdom requires that process. You don't become wise by being right about everything all the time. Yeah, you've become wise by occasionally knowing that that was not the best possible answer. This one is a much better fit for the evidence, makes more sense, and let's now share it and learn from it and grow as a result of it and build on top of it. Yeah, I would certainly agree with that. And that's why God is so opposed to perfection, the perfect. Because with perfect, you would preclude that definition of wisdom, wouldn't you? There could be no chakma if you were perfect. No growth if you were perfect. And if everything was perfect, we'd all be out of a job because...
Wait, if everything was perfect, why would you need God?
Yeah. Well, God himself's not perfect, so that wouldn't work either. Can you imagine us? We'd intimidate God because we'd be perfect and he wasn't. That'd be an odd situation, now, wouldn't it?
That'd be a bummer.
And if he was perfect, he wouldn't be approachable. And if he was perfect, there's nothing we could contribute to the relationship. And a relationship where you can't contribute it would be really, really stifling after a while. In fact, that's part of what makes us more comfortable around God, is we know it's not a one-sided affair. He gains from our company just as we gain from his. Now, we gain more than he gains, but it's not a contest. But if we couldn't contribute, we'd always be intimidated.
Yeah.
We'd always wonder, how long is this going to last?
True.
So as we proceed, what God conveys next, now we're getting to it, has been universally misunderstood over the millennia. You are about to be exposed to something that explains what occurred in 33 CE in a way that I think answers so many heretofore unresolved questions. And those questions are going to be that Paul was not a very smart man. He was just a conniving fellow. And there was a 0% chance that he could have created a even remotely credible myth of a Iousu Christou being crucified and representing the Messiah and the Son of God, and that occurring on Passover and all of the ramifications with Rome and the like. He could not have sold that lie if it wasn't based on something. And so the more we understand what it was based upon, the easier it is to understand how the con was perpetrated. For example, the idea that there were disciples. No, there weren't. Dowd had brothers.
Siblings.
This idea that Paul was called into Jerusalem to confront Shimon. He was. And that's because Shimon said, what in the hell is wrong with you? You're wrong about everything. But Shimon was not a disciple, nor was Jacob, nor was Yahuchanan. They were his brothers. So I think this does a marvelous job of explaining all of that, and it even explains why the Romans would go so far as to crucify someone, because there was no reason to crucify the character that's known as Gospel Jesus. It had been impossible for that to have occurred. But Dowd, yeah, you could definitely incite Rome to feel threatened by him.
I don't see you as instigating Rome, but I've never seen you back down, and that would make them aggressive.
No, they had to be instigated. The verb, I drove this to its conclusion. I had to actually instigate Rome to crucify Dowd. You talk about a heavy burden.
Yeah.
That was I've always wondered, what was the biggest ask that Yahweh has placed on the role that I've been asked to play?
That would be it.
That was it. That's the toughest thing that God could possibly have done. And the only way that I could endure it was that I had invested 5 lives up to that point to prepare him for this moment, that I knew it was the single most glorious opportunity of his life, and I knew I'd be with him every step of the way.
Yeah.
That's the only way it could have been done. And I even think about it now, I tear up. No wonder he likes his mother more than his father.
He's a mama's
That's
boy.
not true.
Don't blame him for that. I like his mother more too, but maybe not more than his mother is competing with our father. So anyway, I digress. To appreciate Yahweh's prophecy, we must recognize that the animals in the following list are symbolically presented. There's not a 4-footed creature among them. They convey concepts which help us understand the players and their affinities as we move through time. The Zeeb, that's a wolf. The wolf is representative of Christianity generally and of Paul specifically. It reflects the troubled. The wolf in sheep's clothing has caused Yehudim in general, but more specifically, Paul led the world astray with his Jesus, a counterfeit of Dowd, who is the Kephish lamb. And it is the lamb represented by Dowd who fulfilled Passover, albeit not alone. And this is the single biggest grievance that God has with mankind. So he sets this whole thing up by saying, The single biggest grievance is the wolf against the lamb. And that's why this conflict is listed first as we go into the next statement. The Namer is something that you're not going to find by definition unless you're a bit of a curious soul. The Namer represents the Black Panther that is Nimrod. Nimrod and Namer are one letter removed. You add one letter to Namer and you have Nimrod. And Nimrod speaks of the Babylonian effect of Christianity, of Judaism, and of Islam, with their commingling of truth and lies, religion and politics. The Namer designation serves as the base, as I've said, of Nimrod, just one letter addition. Not only is Nimrod the forerunner of Jesus and that myth as the alleged son of God who was killed during the Easter celebration, all three manifestations of Babel: religious, which is Christianity, political, which is the US and the EU, and geographic, which is Iran and Iraq, have haunted the world and particularly God's people. So, further, we know that Babel explains how religious, political, and conspiratorial concepts denigrate society, which is by intermixing truth and lies to confound and confuse. It is as a result of the most troubling menace that we see in our day, and it is the essence now of social media. Now, this Babylonian effect was ultimately designed to attack the Gadi. The Gadi is the goat. The goat is Yahowah. Why Yahowah? Because not only does he play a prominent role, but Yahowah's claim to fame is he was the single most famous prophet for his sparkling oratory against the Babylonian effect, religion and politics, and especially in opposition to the prophets promoting a Lord and a mother goddess, which are concepts that were born and bred in Babylon. In fact, Astarte Semiramis is the proclaimed mother of God and the queen of heaven that this Nimrod myth was based upon. And that became known as the Asherah cult that Yahowah went out against. And Baal is an expansion of Bel, and Bel was the chief god of the Babylonians. So as the most anti-religious and anti-political of all prophets, and as the man with a golden tongue, Yahowah will serve as one of the two final witnesses. And beyond all of these things, Yahowah as the goat provides the blood that Dowd will use when he anoints the mercy seat upon his return to reconcile Yisrael with Yahowah. And so he is an essential contributor. Now the Choter, he is the Igel. He is the redeployed bull who, as the Adam of Parah, is leading Yisrael back to the garden where it all began. He is the first to perceive and convey God's story from beginning to end. And as the bull, his blood has already been sprinkled on the Aaron Bereth once, and it will be again in conjunction with fulfilling the Mow'edym. It was required as part of the Pesach and Matzah offering in year 4000 Yah and 33 CE to make Dowd's sacrifice acceptable. It's one of the things that Yah was pounding on me for. Why are you suffering in conjunction with Dowd and Pesach? And everybody wants to exclude Dowd from serving in this role because he wasn't, perfect. Well, the remedy for that is the bull's blood. God established that as the remedy to perfect the one who is the intercessor, the one who will resolve and reconcile the relationship with his people. It's the bull's blood that make him an appropriate and acceptable intercessor. So the crucifixion had to include the bull's blood, and it was the bull's blood that had to drip on the mercy seat. And that had to occur in year 4000 Yah in 33 CE to make Dowd's sacrifice acceptable. It will again, of course, on Kippurim in 2033, so that Dowd is qualified to anoint the mercy seat. And for this and other reasons, he is actually the focus of this story. We do have some echo now, and I don't know where we picked that up.
Dr. Jeff.
The Kafir lion is Dowd. He is representing Yehudim and is God's symbol for his tribe. The lion also shows the king defeating his people, defending his people, I should say. And while Dowd is the lamb on Passover, his position as the Lion of Judah is why he is perceived as a threat, why he was perceived as a threat to the Romans. That's why he was crucified. Furthermore, when Dowd returns, it will be under this symbol of the lion. It reflects his positions in year 4000 and 6000 Yah. And in this regard, Kafir, which is the lion, is from kafar, which means to be covered. And kafar is the root of Kippurim, the day that Dowd returns on reconciliations. That's pretty good at these metaphors. He's had some practice. Yeah.
So Getty, the word for goat or kid,
Yes.
if it's from Gadad means to penetrate, cut, attack, and invade. So
Yahowah was pretty good at that.
Eliah, killed all the prophets of Baal and Asherah.
Mm-hmm. Attacked them and
The other comment was the blood of the bull was sprinkled on the mercy seat during Yom Kippur, not Pesach.
But it had to be also.
So Ron Wyatt's thing, like he showed the crack in the rock.
That there was blood.
And
I think he actually saw blood. He just didn't know whose blood it was.
Well, he said he took
He
said he took a sample to the hospital or whatever.
Oh, I know. That was all craziness. And by the way, he later recanted the testing of the blood, but he didn't recant seeing the blood. And there should be traces of blood.
Well, he said he saw the Ark of the Covenant, and it was in like a stone box, but the stone box was like the top of it was split open or something.
And he said there was a split in the
rock.
The Ark of the Covenant was exposed, and Yirmiyah's grotto with a malak guarding it. But there was a crack in the above it in the ceiling of Yirmiyah's grotto, where he said that is where the blood came down from the crucifixion to anoint it. And we know that it would never have been the blood of the lamb that would have done that. But the thing that makes the intercessor acceptable to God, by God's own definition, is the blood of a bull.
Blood of the bull, right?
So he is very clear that a bull is here, that a bull is being slaughtered at this moment, and you got two ways to explain why that is happening. One is that he's there with Dowd because Dowd's his son, but why would God continue to refer to him as the bull, unless bull has some other connotation that's associated with why it was important for him to shed his blood at the same time?
The bull was to atone for the high priest, Aaron, and the rest of the high priest.
But it doesn't. It had nothing. It was used as an example of Aaron having nothing to do with Aaron. Aaron was a scumbag. There are lots of stories in the Torah that explain things that have nothing to do with the thing that they're explaining. And Aaron was a scumbag. Dowd is not a scumbag, but the method of atoning for the errors of the one serving as the intercessor to reconcile Yahowah with his people, the method of doing that is the blood of the bull on the mercy seat. And so that's why it applied in both cases. And
Yeah,
that's
it
why the
applies to
first
all
thing,
the high priests, not just Aaron. Aaron was just the first.
it did, but only for one reason, having nothing to do with the high priest. It's because Dowd serves in that role when he comes back.
Right.
That's why Dowd, when
Yeah.
the Aaron of the Bereth was brought into Jerusalem, that's why he had the breastplate of the high priest. He represents the high priest. That's the story in Zechariah. So the foreshadowing is there for the express purpose of telling you what's going to happen and why it's going to happen. It's not there for any other purpose. So this eagle, who is a redeployed bull, and the Kaphir lion as the Kebesh lamb, they are the Qatan and the Gadol Mayoreth. They are the two men called by God to fulfill the Mikra. This represents the single most important prophetic revelation in the Torah, one that we will devote an entire volume of Coming Home to pursue. That is the volume 6. However, apart from this prophecy on the Choter, there has been no reason to perceive that Dowd didn't fill the first 3 Moed Mikra all alone. That's what we have thought, and that Yada would fulfill the next 2 as such that they would celebrate the final Mikra together. But that is not precisely what this next statement conveys. So leading up to this review of Coming Home, Bashar Herald, and in the anticipation of its publication, I had spent, as I've shared earlier, 3 successive sleepless nights following a rough day passing a kidney stone. And it was Yahweh that was constantly asking me to figure out what this had to do with Passover and with Dowd, night after night. And he made it clear that he's not going to spoon feed me the answer or ease up on his line of inquiry. And I needed to uncover the correlation, that it was there to find. Well, then here it is. By way of background, I've recently come to recognize that Adam was Dowd, that God's firstborn was conceived to shine in his father's presence. Only he didn't. And this was not a problem God or Dowd could resolve on their own. Yahweh in 7 dimensions couldn't help but intimidate the one he wanted to raise. The son was not conceived to do well on his own, so Dowd couldn't figure it out independently. He was built for this kind of a relationship. Therefore, for God to offer his firstborn a father figure that he could relate to and trust, well, that became the prime objective. This man would have to be firm, but not imposing, inspiring, but not overwhelming, sufficiently right to be effective, while flawed enough to be approachable. Given sufficient access during the critical and crucial moments over the past 6,000 years, Yahweh was convinced that proper parenting and support would enable his son to grow and develop into the right stuff. Therefore, my wife, Theama, and I were prepared and deployed by God for this particular job, to serve his son in this capacity. We are professional nannies, husband and wife nannies, if you will. Now, it's a job that we've done the best of our ability over the millennia. And at all of those times, these last 2 have been the most challenging. The prophecy speaks of what we accomplished in 33 CE, year 4000 Yah, and then would go on to achieve an advance of year 6000 Yah in 2033. What it reveals is that Dowd did not fulfill Pesach and Matzah alone. We were not only there, but also endured the same torment. Beyond this, we were responsible for inciting the Romans to crucify our son on Passover at the right place and time, knowing that every aspect of what must transpire was essential. It was this realization that explains what actually occurred in the spring of 33. And the fact of the matter is, Dowd would never have been able to measure up to the son that God wanted to serve as his heir without having manned up to fulfill Pesach, Matzah, and Mow'edym. If he couldn't do that, he couldn't be Elyon. He had to do that to be Elyon. So making sure he did that was essential to him being what he was designed to be. Couldn't be done any other way.
Craig?
Yeah.
I'm making a cameo here. Shabbat Shalom, my precious family.
Oh, there you are. Hi, Dr. Jeff.
Yeah, the reason I'm popping on is I asked a question just before you began to speak of this prophecy. And the question was, did the Amma accompany the Choter to Sheol when the Choter accompanied Dowd to Sheol during Chag Matzah? And you just gave the answer.
Yeah,
and,
I'm not sure I gave the answer. What I could say is this. Leah is an acquired taste. She is unlike any other woman. And while she is reasonably willing to accept my guidance and direction, it's pretty tough for anybody else to say much of anything to her that she's going to say, okay, I'll do that. Yeah, she's pretty tough cookie. And she is never afraid of anything like this. I know what my instruction would have been. Go home. We'll be back in less than 2 days. Go home. You don't want to witness this. You don't want to be part of this. She would have had such a conniption fit that, I can just see the Romans saying, oh, if you're so insistent that you join them, we'll accommodate you. There were, the old story, there were 3 crosses. It's highly likely that there was a third of us, because otherwise, why would they have made up that story? And she is not the kind of person that you tell to go home and she's just going to hang there by herself, waiting for us to come back. Just not how she's made. So knowing her, I see her doing this. But I have not seen the proof of that. I'm just telling you that knowing the personality, I think it's a pretty good chance that that's the case. I can tell you that in the middle of Dowd's essay on crucifixion, as he describes the pain of crucifixion and then transitions to going into the darkness of Sheol, he talks about his mother in the midst of that, in the 22nd Mizmor. So that's a pretty interesting sign. So we'll pursue it. I'm not sure we have to know it to gain from what we're going to read here. So Dr. Jeff, I can't give you a definitive answer. I can just tell you what my gut tells me that, yeah, she probably did. She probably talked herself right into crucifixion. And she wouldn't leave it at that. Her soul would still be as feisty. And we've come to recognize that Dowd does not do well on his own, and he's proven it. And that was by design. He's not designed to do well on his own. Boy, you talk about not doing well on her own. It's Leah. She does not do well on her own. She has never been designed to be in the wild on her own. So she's the same kind of personality. She no more could stay behind and hang in the house with the other sons while this was all going on and man the moon. It's just not in her nature.
Like mother, like son. I will say that Yahweh loves his Ruth. He loves his Amma. She is.
Yeah, I think that Dowd's a lot like maybe even more like Leah than me.
She's courageous.
Certainly, he could relate to her more than to me, and I understand that. That's that probably the way it should be.
She's courageous. She has chokhmah, and she's chazak. She's the
Yeah, big
closest
personality.
female that's
Really big personality.
Gabrielish like. And I could see her saying, anyone saying to her, I'm going to leave you behind, she would say, no, you get off my porch.
Oh, well, I tried to give her that when I was, thought I had a ruptured appendix and I was going to die. I wasn't complaining about it. I was quite happy about it. And she says, hell, you aren't. You're not leaving me here alone. No way. Anyway, the next two descriptors on Yahweh's list are Naar and Qatan. Now, these titles are prophetic legend, particularly regarding the Torah's initial prophecy, the story of Noah and Shem, and after the flood particularly, and then with Ruth and Boaz. Naar is thoughtlessly rendered as young man. And if you look it up in Strong's, that's what you're going to see. But that's a horrible rendering of the term. And it's rendered as young woman when it's in the feminine singular as Naara. However, these assessments are wholly incongruent with its defining verbal root, which is spelled identically in the Hebrew text. Therefore, when we search for meaning, we find that Naar is an agitator, disrupting and disputing human control mechanisms. Such a man is a loud-talking, relentlessly growling, anti-authoritarian figure that rustles about while shaking things up. The Naar's purpose is to remove that which does not belong, because it is the only way to free the scattered sheep. He roars, he snarls, but he never adheres to that which influences and confines others, making him the ultimate religious and political contrarian. His forte is to prevent that which is inappropriate from happening. He is a disabler. He is a segregator. Based upon the three variations of the verb, and there's three variations of the verb Naar, one should expect such a man to be a bit withered, and that's from extreme exposure. The purpose of his snarling growl and relentless roar is to communicate boldly and loudly, shouting above the masses when needed. His intent is to shake off and then separate from these influences and whatever is holding his people back, because he wants to free them from the dangers lurking all around them. And so while young people are ubiquitous, a Naar is as rare as truth is among men. In Paleo Hebrew, Naar is written as Nun, Ain, and Rosh. Reading right to left, this makes him a son sowing seeds who perceives what is required to be observant and thoughtful. Reading left to right, this man not only serves as a witness to the son, he's positioned to protect him. Therefore, to render Naar as child in this context is to misrepresent the word and to obfuscate the message. Hebrew nouns are based on their actionable roots, always and without exception. It is one of the single most important tools that we have learned in translating God's testimony accurately. Now, it is Qatan which is paired with Gadol, and the initial and most important prophecy in the Torah. And they are the Mayoreth, the luminaries. And in this regard, Qatan is to be reduced significantly, to be smaller, younger, less important, and more recent. Prior to this moment, when setting these thoughts up against the Gadol Mayor, I had perceived that Yada was less valuable than Dowd, which he is to God, clearly. But that's not the point. The prophecy itself, in it, Yahweh precludes the perception that these two are being compared to one another, because he overtly states that both Mayoreth luminaries are Gadol. They're greater. They're influential. They're more important than any others. The great cannot be small. The influential cannot be insignificant. And the man chosen to father God's beloved son cannot be younger than the son, even if the son is the firstborn. Therefore, I have finally come to see that Gadol was not used to distinguish Dowd from Yada, but to express his relationship with Yahweh. At the same time, the distinction reaffirms the vital importance of both men, while still recognizing that the firstborn is the one who is ultimately important to God. As such, Qatan wasn't spoken to diminish the relevance of the second most influential character in Yahweh's story, or to suggest that a 6,000-year-old man was young, unless you're talking from God's perspective. The Qatan is an implement of God deployed in support of his son. Therefore, it was used to say that he is properly positioned to serve in the role of Dowd's dad. And to say that you are a mini-me in terms of Yahweh is what we should all think of ourselves. God said he created us in his image and a likeness, a lesser dimensional version of himself. And so our intent is all to be mini-me's. That's God's intent with us. And so he's presenting the Qatan as his mini-me to serve as dad to Dowd. So the Qatan is reduced significantly so as to be smaller, younger, less significant, and more recently deployed than the one using him. The comparison is toward God, and that's by design. Yahweh wants Dowd to grow into a son with whom he can explore, manage, and share the universe. But since this man did not emerge from the garden, God deployed his Qatan, a mini-me of sorts, to raise his beloved. Now, there's only one potential verbal root of Qatan. It fits this story beautifully, but it is it's a bit rough. And it reminds us that the Qatan is known because he will be slaughtered. Not once, but twice. Of the only other words which share the first two letters, we find kat, which references a point in time. Keteb, the only other, indicates that his slain will be to abolish a plague. Then I pulled a Mike who likes to look at the potential definitions of words, not in the context of where that word is positioned among other Hebrew words based upon its alphabetical listing. But, there's other letter patterns, like what about the TN letter pattern, and go beyond the things that are related to QT or QTN, and what you look at the last two letters. So that is a teth. And so it is a basket. And what we find is the most related word to it, to the TN, is TNLF. And it actually describes the letter itself. It is a basket which serves as a container to carry in the fruit of the harvest from a productive field. God's very good at these analogies and symbols. Tanap also is ground that is washed clean of all impurities. Sounds very Towrah-ish to me. Now, so that's the opposite direction. Now, in Paleo-Hebrew, Qatan was scribed as Kof, and then Teth, and finally the Nun. Now, this reveals that the Qatan was deployed at the dawn of time and will remain to the final sunset to protect and gather in the sun, particularly during the harvest. Pretty clever word. Paleo-Hebrew is just so marvelous when we think of how the words were painted for us. Well, now that we know the players, here is the prophetic text. So that was quite the introduction, but until you know all the players, this won't make any sense. And now that you know all the players, I think it will. All right. It says the Ze'eb, that is the wolf, the predatory animal representing the most infamous Benjamite Paul, who is the wolf in sheep's clothing, that was responsible for counterfeiting Dowd and creating Christianity. He will conspire against, inciting a harmful rebellion with his quarrelsome and insidious plans, so as to be alienated for him having initiated terrifying strife. Now, this is Gur. You know, when I went back to translate this, if you just go to the first, because there happened to be 4 or 5 variations of the verb Gur, depending on the way it's pointed, but there were no diacritical marks in the original text. So we have to consider all of them. And when you do that, the Gur that makes the sense is exactly as I have just defined it. And so this is why you take your time and you don't just go to the first word that shows up in one lexicon, but you look at everything that verb is written to convey. And the first 3 renditions of this verb says that it is somebody that incites a harmful rebellion, that is quarrelsome and insidious. They are alienated. They have initiated tremendous strife. That is exactly what the wolf did. Will sojourn as a stranger, congregating with the flock while leading them astray, conspiring while scheming in a harmful, treacherous, and deceitful manner, while being rebellious, picking a fight by instigating the attack. And it is against the Kabesh. It's against the lamb. The wolf went after the lamb in opposition to the dominant ram. And in the Towrah, in conjunction with the Passover lamb, and therefore with Dowd. So that sets this up. That's the battle royale. That frames the issue. That's what we're up against.
So they're not laying down together, huh?
Pardon?
They're not laying down, cozying up to each other, huh?
No, they are not. This is the battle royale. This is the ultimate thing. This is the religion that robs the son of everything he's done, and God's response to it. Yep. And the Naar, this panther of Nimrod. That's a black predator or camouflage leopard, symbolic of Babylon. The NMR is the base of Nimrod. He will stretch out robots. He will lie in wait, crouched and prepared to leap, in opposition to the Gadi, the goat, representing Eliot from an unused root meaning to cut off, thus symbolic of those set apart unto God. The eagle, yeah, go ahead.
So, yeah, this is one of the many Hebrew words that has a light and dark side, the gur.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like the rabbis always pick the wrong one.
They do, and it does have a light and dark
I mean,
side.
They consistently pick the wrong one when there's a light and dark side.
They do, and they point it so that it makes God look like a fool, and it starts an argument. And yeah, a gur as a noun can be a good guy.
Yeah, but as the verb, it can mean to sojourn or abide. But on the negative side,
yes, it can.
It can also mean
have a positive side. It's certainly not used positively in this case. Mm-hmm.
To dread.
Yeah, the wolf and the battle between the wolf and the lamb is the single most egregious from God's point of view, and that's what he's framing here. And when you look at the various uses of gur as a verb, you find that right away. It's the rabbis that made the wrong call.
And
now,
you know what,
eagle,
too, Yada?
Go ahead.
Another thing that you see is, I was preparing for this week's episode in Selah. I made the point that, and it really just struck me recently, especially just in this psalm, but you see it in other psalms, Shaul is such an antagonistic foe. Dowd talks about it constantly. Almost a psalm doesn't go by where he says he's sick of being what he said, being twisted and perverted and lying and warping what he represents. I mean, this is real angst. So this is a nice tie-in to that.
Yes, it is.
So that
it is because
it's an ongoing battle.
Dowd is very bitter about the fact that we all talked him into doing this, and he did it, and he deserves full credit for having done it. And then this piece of shit here comes along as Paul, and he pretends that he's speaking for God, and he steals everything that Dowd did and gives it to this mythological counterfeit. And it really pisses Dowd off, pisses God off. There is nothing that irritates God more than the Christianity's lies, stealing everything that Dowd did, stealing his title, Messiah, King, Son of God, stole all of those titles, chosen one, and then claimed that it was this myth that fulfilled Passover by being crucified. This is it's a bitter pill for God and for
how long do I have to continue dealing with this?
Right.
It's a big issue.
Yep.
I will say,
I even bring it up in the 89th Mizmor to him. I said, we're going to tell you the truth. It's you'll get full credit for it in the end, but it's 2,000 years they're going to go by, and it's going to take 33 years for me to set the record straight prior to your return. But I'm gonna invest those years to get it done. So I can promise you we'll get it done, but you're gonna have to hold tight. It's a long time in between.
Taking the baton from Will, Yada, it's the word, the term, na'ar, is I don't want to use the term perfect, but is an amazing amalgamation of bringing together what the Choter and the Zeroah are, because you just gave as the chief rabble rouser, you basically described what must be done and what is necessary for the Adam of Parah to accomplish the mission.
For Dowd to accomplish his mission, that is the story here. It is a really big deal to Yahowah, and that's why he makes such a big deal of it. This really matters to God. So the Egel, which is a very interesting term, it's a bull, but it's based upon the idea of coming full circle. So it's a redeployed bull. It's a bull that comes around again, and that knows how to come back, how the whole God story comes full circle. So it's reasonably sharp bull here. He's not your average dunderhead bull. If you're going to be a bull, you might as well be a smart one, right? And the Kafir lion that we know represents Dowd, Yasha'yah, are together at the same time. They are unified. They are inseparable. They are in one accord. They are alike in the same place. Grossly and bitterly beaten by an oppressive regime, while merry, subjugated to an exceptionally savage slaughter, while rebelling against a cruel and tyrannical government. From merry to resist and rebel against an imposed and loathsome authority. Mara, whipped, pounded, and jabbed, severely and antagonistically beaten. It's the word that was used by Naomi when she cursed Yahowah on her way into Bethlehem. And Mara, by a dominating despot or ruler. We were bludgeoned to death together. And so, the Naar, the loud-talking agitator, this growling man rustling about, while shaking things up to remove that which does not belong, all to free the scattered sheep. As the Qatan, the lesser and younger one, being slaughtered at this moment in time. He will be driving this along, providing the physical motivation as he leads and guides throughout this process, while he also laments and cries over these things. It's Nahag. He will be directing them, be influencing all of this as he groans through it, sobbing in the process. That is Yasha'yah 11:6. That's the prophecy that answered the question. When Yahweh made ask, that's the toughest ask in the history of all asks. The very things driven to fruition by the bull would ultimately feed into the wolf's game. The Christian pretense of a king being crucified by Rome has always been senseless. But with the actual king of Israel, the Messiah and Son of God, Rome did what Rome does. It sought to vanquish the threat. With Nahag, the Naar not only provided the motivation and support to his son to fulfill Pesach and Matzah, he assured that both would be conducted in the right place and time. It wasn't without the pain of witnessing his son's crucifixion, one that he had arranged, while also enduring his own. The Qatan was conceived for the slaughter. The reoccurring bull and lion were grossly and bitterly beaten by an oppressive regime, with the most abusive empire in human history, inflicting its most excruciating form of prolonged execution. It was merry, an exceptionally savage event. Father and son were slaughtered while rebelling against a cruel and tyrannical government. Murray is from Mary, which means to resist and to rebel against an imposed and loathsome authority. It is also from Mara, whipped, pounded, and jabbed, severely and antagonistically beaten. It is the term Naomi cited to curse Yahweh on her way into Bethlehem that Ruth resolved. Further setting the stage, Mara reveals that the beatings were prosecuted by an exceptionally domineering despot. By using Naar and Qatan, God is revealing that they represent the Choter, and that he was the responsible party on this occasion. He was equipped to be the ultimate Naar, a loud-talking agitator, a growling mound rustling about while shaking things up, to remove that which does not belong, to free the scattered sheep. And in this case, after assuring Dowd that he was prepared for what he would endure, and then ensuring that it would happen as planned, as discussed, as Dowd himself had written in his prophecies. The bull acted to protect his son. He, Naar, roared and snarled at all who approached him, preventing anything that was unnecessary from happening. As the Qatan, the Choter was there in God's stead. He was slaughtered, not only to shed the bull's blood on the Kipporeth, but to assure that the Son of God was never abandoned and never alone, Yahowah together at the same time, indeed inseparable. They were Katal, slain, Kat, at the same point of time, Kateb, to abolish the plague of religion. Even more, the Qatan was Tene, deployed as a basket or a container to carry and to surround, to protect Dowd, the most valuable harvest the world would ever know. And all of the drama is set out against the worst crime ever committed by the Zeeb, the wolf, who would pervert and corrupt, counterfeit what occurred this day to conspire against the Kepesh Lamb of God, inciting the most harmful rebellion against Father and Son by way of the most quarrelsome and insidious scheme. Paul's regurgitation of the Nimrod myth through Babel, confounding and confusion, was so sinister that it wouldn't be resolved until the arrival of the Gatti goat, Elia, is Yahweh's most effective implement against religion and politics, the best ever deployed, this time to bring Christianity down. This would not only be a deployment of the Egel, the redeployed bull, and the Kafir lion. They would also return to save the world once again. They are God's Yahowah, inseparable pair. So even with that, there's more to the story. I'll read one more statement and we'll call it an evening. It's been a pretty emotional presentation. The Parah, fruitful and productive bull, another reference to the bull, and the Dob bear, who was fiercely protective of her cubs. Gee, I wonder who the mama bear is in this case. Will choose to be shepherded and to act as shepherds together. Their youth and the children they bear will lie down and dwell. The area, the lion, as Yehudah, like the Bakar, the insightful and considerate bull, shall consume the chaff. Yasha'yah, liberty is from Yahweh, 11:7. That's a gut wrench, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a lot.
Yeah, as a mother, I'm a woman, Mariah. It's got to be. It's hard to take. I've seen expressions on your face that you put yourself in what it would have been like even to be Leah in that scene, the Amma, and know, okay, we raised him. He's ready for this. This is his crowning achievement. This is what puts him in the position. Once he's finished this, it's all done. We've completed the mission other than to restore his legacy before his return. But can you imagine being her and saying, oh my God, you're really going to go through with this?
Yeah.
And then it was, don't you dare leave me here alone. Yeah, don't you dare leave me here alone. Yeah. It's
a lot, but yeah.
It's a lot. Yeah. I've had red eyes ever since I saw it. I knew part of it had to be true. I didn't know it was true to this degree. This is the way the verb is written. It's the bull that directed the whole thing, which means he was the one that set it all up. He made certain that his son was ready, and then he instigated what follows. I've kidded for a long time that says, if you want to blame the Jews for killing the Passover lamb, then you might rethink that, and you may want to thank him because the Passover lamb doesn't die on Passover. Then there is no opening of the door to eternal life. So you ought to be thanking the Jews if they in fact did this thing. Well, that thing wasn't done by the Jews. It was done by Boaz, who is Yada, who is this bull. He's the one who arranged it. There's not a lot of people that can say they arranged the crucifixion of their son and their own crucifixion, and that their wife joined them to be crucified. And that was the easy part of it, because the next day they went into hell with their son. But think of the joy of coming back out, knowing that once you have done that, you know, there's only one more big ask left. You know, it's correcting the record, getting the covenant family together for the harvest, getting them educated and prepared, building the library, reestablishing Yahweh's name, reacquainting Israel with the glorious nature of Dowd and what he ultimately accomplished for them, and that other little thing of I was wrong about the Adamah Parah and the nature of the sacrifice on Towrah. And that was the other lesson that God wanted me to learn.
Yeah.
I was wrong. I had read into it that Yahweh could never have allowed his beloved son to suffer the angst of crucifixion. And that's not true.
Right.
And it's not true with what happens on Towrah either. It's not real.
Right.
It doesn't make the point without the agony.
Right.
And that's the other point he wanted me to wake up and correct. And that makes it really, really hard, knowing now 7 years in advance that there's going to be 7 years of excruciating agony on Towrah. It's the glorious day of Yahweh, and everything is just transformed and renewed, but it's going to be a rough day. And but it won't be as rough as what happened on Passover, because it's one thing to go before Satan and say, "This is your last shot, take it," and then endure 7 hours of torment as a result of that. That's one thing. Knowing what it delivers, and knowing that 7 hours later my soul is with Yahweh and Dowd, and we're returning together, and it's from that point it's just glorious. And it's another thing entirely to set up your beloved son for it, and knowing your wife's going to join you and that you instigated it. It's a whole different kettle of fish. So this was the toughest ask of all.
It's completing the job, though.
Pardon?
It's completing the job.
Yeah, it's completing the job. It is. It's the definition of tamam. It is finishing the job.
Right.
And God doesn't want it to be easy. Doesn't prove the point. And it, of course, it's much easier for everybody else, and it has to be. But this exemplar job, it can't be easy. You can't earn the Son of God's respect by it being easy. No. He loves his mother, and he sings his mother's praises, but I can assure you he respects his dad.
Indeed.
So what do you think, Barry?
Well, what I think is people need to realize what it takes to become a member of the covenant and understand what that responsibility is.
Mm-hmm.
And without the sacrifice and pain and all that, we don't understand truly. We just don't.
Yeah. So I don't know if the microphone's working. Rich went over there to turn something on, but
I'd probably talk louder than Leia.
Yeah, we probably do.
There you go. That's better.
But the answer is that we are in this together, and that we're all accomplishing the same mission. And it's to quote my friend Sir Shorts up there, it does not have to be altruistic. We are here as a family to support God's Son. That's why we're here. And in supporting him, and restoring his reputation and his father's name, God shows his appreciation by incorporating us into his family. And Dowd shows his appreciation by sharing his inheritance. You can't do it thinking you're going to get a payback on it. That's not the reason for doing it, but that's the equation. That's the deal that God has cut. Mm-hmm. And that's why he said he cut the covenant through these two people, Noach, who is this bull, and through Dowd. This is the covenant. The covenant's job is to deliver the firstborn to his father, ready to serve, ready to inherit, ready to be Elion, the very presence of God. And I can tell you that we have done 99% of the work. There's still some work to go, but we've come a long way on this one. And we have already delivered Dowd to his father, ready to go. Now our only responsibility is bringing the world up to snuff with who Dowd is and why he deserves our respect, and who Yahweh is and why he deserves our respect. That's the job that's left. And then to finally purge this mortal remnant of Yisrael of their guilt, so they can re-enter the garden. We give a chance to do a do-over with them, and at the same time to create this library for that event, and to educate, inspire, motivate every member of the covenant family, so that we're working as a family for the same goal. That's who we are.
Yay.
Yeah, pretty cool. Yeah. By the way, Mara, your presentation with your husband on that program, I thought was really, really good.
Thank you.
Some people just come across well together and work together well on camera. You'll resolve your upward glaring camera angle. But you want to make some mistakes initially because you want to improve. You want to show that we are improving and we can go beyond this. But that was really a good program.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I keep on saying that if Will gets any better at this, I'll get to retire early. And if he ever really starts partnering with his son and they do a show together, then I know I'm retiring early, and I'm very, very happy about that. You can be assured I'm not going to put up any fight in that regard. And I am clearly looking forward to Jeff partnering with my wife to refute rabbinic rubbish. And as you saw in the blog on the vlog, you get a promotional bet on your upcoming show. So you need to do good on it. And Mike, I'll turn these 3 books over back to you here before too long. I'm entering some edits right now on volume 4. I got waylaid with this, but what a wonderful way to get waylaid. I'll press through now volume 4, and then enter the last edits for 5 and 6, and send those off to you for final editing. But we've come a long way on them. We're getting close on all of them. And then I've got to decide this material really should be reviewed at the end of the Ruth story, but that book's already 750 pages, so we may need a Coming Home 7 to go through this, because there's a lot more to this than what we just read, although this is pretty amazing. But because I'm jumping in and out of places and books, it sounds like we're talking about this coming after all we have learned, after the final word picture sets up these characters, and the Mayoreth sets up the whole life story of these 2 luminaries. But it doesn't, because this thing we've just reviewed is in Coming Home 4. So it's actually premature for what we've come to learn. So I'm going to have to repeat it later in the story. And I don't know if that's going to be in Coming Home 6 or we just started Coming Home 7. But That's kind of the
I was just
plan with it.
thinking how well it tied in with the 15th chapter of Coming Home for the olive branch, right? With,
Yes. Oh yeah,
you know,
it's beautiful.
and so I
but
was like,
at the end of Luminaries, and you've told the story of Ruth and Boaz delivering the kinsman redeemer. That's the place you tell the story, and it's obviously the place where this story belongs. So we'll figure out how we represent it, and that'll be, it's thousands of pages after what we're reading right here. But we'll go through this material once again. So,
Wow,
pretty impressive, huh? God's quite the storyteller. He's good at this.
Indeed.
Can say Yada. This is
Yes.
This was the most intense prophecy I've ever heard coming from your lips. And if it's time to go to Coming Home 7 to remove more leaven as we journey to heaven, so be it.
So be it. Yeah. This one is really personal. And that's why the introduction we're working for now and the outro for the Yahowah vlog is after coming to this, and I saw Leah. She has created like 100 images that are she, Dowd, and I all dressed up having fun together. We're falling out of the sky together. We're dancing on clouds together. We're running through wheat fields together. We're on the beach together. We're just having a ball together, and it's just hundreds of these pictures. And I said, that's the introduction. Those are the visuals, because that's God's story. Yeah. That's the story that He is telling us from beginning to end. And I said, I will write the text for that, and I will explain what those pictures represent. But I'm going to do it the opposite of the way we've done it in the past. I'm going to have the 12-second one be the intro, and the 60-second version being the outro, because no one's going to try to speed past the intro if it's only 12 seconds. And by the time we've talked for an hour or two, who's going to cheat themselves of another 60 seconds that explain it all? And it's going to be fun visuals with a really gut-wrenching explanation of these are the characters in God's story. This is what He's trying to achieve. And if we want to participate, the offer is there. And so it's deeply personal. Yeah, it's deeply personal, and it's wonderful. It's reassuring, and it's why God said, I'm not going to spoon feed this to you. You're going to go find it. You need to figure this out. It's essential you figure this out, and it's so much better when you find it and figure it out. And even if you're a little embarrassed that there it was, how many times have we been through that? I'll bet you we've been through the opening lines of Yasha'yah 11 20 times.
Yeah, a lot.
It was always there and we didn't see it.
Yeah.
And there He uses Naar, and He uses Qatan, and He uses 4 different words for bull.
Yeah.
No, we weren't ready.
See it. Yep. Yeah. You're just not prepared to see it.
That's right.
Not prepared to deal with it, not prepared to see it. And sometimes it's you really have to go through the gauntlet before you get to the position where you're ready for this. And God said, okay, you're ready for it. So I'm going to show it to you.
Just look at how you look at how you augmented and defined Choter today. That was a volcanic eruption of knowledge.
Yeah, it really is. What Choter represents, what Qatan represents, what Naar represents, the bulls represent, what those verbs conveyed. And as Mike, we always learn that if you use one lexicon and you look at the first answer the lexicon provides, the chances that you're going to be right are slim. You need to do your homework. It takes work, and if you're willing to invest the time and your mind's open, and you do some fact checking and you're careful about it, boy, the floodgates of knowledge are just open there for you.
For Naar, there
the whole
was
story together.
5 entries in Strong's. The 2 verbal roots were shake and growl. But yeah, how did they come up with boy? Or
How do they come up with more?
Man.
Yeah, and of course, Strong's is not the best lexicon. I know that you have it
Right.
because it's available.
Yeah. Well, I use Brown Driver Briggs mostly, but I've got
and the Dictionary of Biblical Languages. Yeah, the DBL is overwhelmingly the best, and it is so much better. I would say it's better than all the rest combined. It's a bit devastating that there is
one's not available free.
I know in anywhere, and I'm still convinced.
Like I can look at Jusinius, and I can look at in hard copy. I've got the book.
So I'm hopeful that there is some way that we're going to be able to make that available to people because it's such a treasure. It's always been my go-to, and it will have so much more information than anything else does, and it also has a really good concordance associated with it. But how they came up with the young man on this is just it's a tragedy because that is not the verbal root, and the verbal root explains everything we just talked about. And when you know the verbal root, then it explains who those two guys were that accompanied Abraham and Yishak to Mount Moriah and why they were there. It was Noach representing this bull and Shem representing Dowd, the lion. And father was telling the son, hey, kid, pay attention. In a couple of thousand years, this is going to be you. Pay attention, kid. That's how it all transpired. It's a beautiful way for God telling the story. But you would never have known it unless you take the time to analyze these words and what they actually mean. And how beautifully the metaphors are woven into the story, and
it's gorgeous.
The verbs define the nouns, and it's glorious. This was the most painful joy that I guess you could equate it to childbirth, where you're going through all of this pain and you end up with a great joy in the end, and ultimately you forget about the pain and you celebrate the joy. And so it's very much like childbirth. And the par as a para is a pregnant bull, and that's not an oxymoron from God's point of view. He's a pregnant bull, the bull that gives life.
Give life.
Well, we have done our 2.5 hours. That's a pretty good long program. It was Kevin that wanted to do this as opposed to just continue with Luminaries. It was a lot of work to get it to this position. I'm sorry to drop it on you at the last moment. It is very, very emotional. But I appreciate you contributing and adding to it and sharing it with me. What a pain that ends up in a great joy. It is, as we say, it's just like a woman giving birth to a child. That's what this is all about. And indeed we do. And that the most important child we give birth to is the very Son of God. And then
thank you, Kevin, for allowing me to insert myself in.
You're always welcome, Dr.
Unexpectedly. Jeff. But I will say that you did what you had to do, and the euphoria I feel right now because you've taken down Rahab, and it's like Leah said, Tamim, it's finished.
It's finished.
And it's finished. And now you can speed off at the speed of light, way past Alpha Centauri, and
that's, by the way, that's a line that I'm sure that Dowd spoke, that was parroted by the counterfeiters.
Yeah.
But it is finished.
It is finished. It is finished. And you've also succeeded in taking down unequivocally the three Abrahamic religions.
Yeah.
You've smashed
it's interesting too, that stupid line talking to the two thieves, and I'll see you this day in paradise. How just absurdly that is, because it makes it just a laugh, and when put in the Christian New Testament. If it is Dowd and he's saying it to his mother and father, and 24 hours of the time that that happens, or 30 hours,
yeah,
it's true.
It is.
He would.
He will.
And so it could well have been spoken, but from a different point of view by a different purpose about two different people. And if you count 30 hours as the right amount of time, it was indeed true.
Yeah.
Pretty cool, huh? So much of this, it just explains everything that we have never had an answer for. Yeah. And now we do. Yeah. Exciting. Well, thank you, everyone. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Delighted to be able to share something like this with you. That's the joy of doing this program like this, the Yahowah vlog, is now the length of time to go from insight to sharing it is sometimes just a matter of an hour or so, as opposed to all the time to finish a book and then edit the book and then publish the book and then talk about that book. It's it can take a year, and now we can do the from insight to share in a matter of an hour.
Yeah,
very cool. Love it. Thank you all. Awesome. I look forward to being with you again next week. Good day.
Shabbat, Shabbat, come home and rest. Shabbat, Shabbat, Yahowah's best. Lay down the weak, let your soul be free. Shabbat, Shabbat, come back to me. 6 days we work, then we bask. We leave the noise to hear Yah's voice. We listen, we learn, we struggle to know. We walk with Yah through the mikray. Shabbat, Shabbat, come home and rest. Shabbat, Shabbat, Yahowah's best. Lay down the weak, let your soul be free. Shabbat, Shabbat, come back to me.